Hey, what's happening, everybody? Robert Phoenix here. It is 9:18 Central Standard Time. I'm getting a bit of a late start today as I have discovered a very powerful new form of melatonin, which took me off into the land of Nod for a lot longer than I thought I would be sleeping last night. But I'm here, and thank you for being here with me, and hopefully you're here as well. And if you're not here now, you can always watch this later as this broadcast will be archived on my channel, which is one of the beautiful things about technology. And let's use it while we can. So what's going on, everybody? It's another wonderful day in the neighborhood, in the global village. Lots to report about, as always. Oh, of course, we have the cat crew coming in. Yes, the man himself is going to be joining us here shortly. He's got his new form of getting up here. And here he is right now. Of course, your friend and mine, Jasper, the astrological cat. There he is. Here's that big head. Jasper Big Head. So one time I had a cat a long time ago. Sweet little cat. And, this is back when I thought I was conscious, but I wasn't really conscious. And you remember those days? I do. I do remember those days. Thank God I do. So I had this cat, and in my anti-authoritarian worldview, I thought it was really cool for her not to be spayed. Why do you want to spay a cat? Because it robs them of the reproductive rights. That's just wrong. So she had a litter of kittens, and I thought, okay, well, she had her kittens, and usually what happens is that after they have their kittens, then you can spay them, right? I mean, generally that's kind of the rule of thumb. Well, at least that's what it does in. Hold on a second. Cancel. I've got updates. Hold on. I got things going on here. Let's see. It's doing things for you. You're not even asking the computer to do those things. Anyway, so I decided that, oh yeah, it's all cool and natural to not spay my cat. And then I was living in Olympia, Washington, and there was this one cat that was there, kind of a stray cat. He was this alley cat kind of cat, and this cat he had the most enormous head, like a head bigger than Jasper's. That's a big head right there. And but he had this weird kind of devil cat vibe to him too. He was a stray, bizarre devil cat, enormous head, and he eventually got to my cat. So my cat gets pregnant, and she has one kitten whose head is so big that she can't have this cat. She winds up having only two kittens because both of their heads were enormous. And so they had to go and cesarean her, take these kittens out, and eventually found homes for both the kittens. And then, of course, my cat was spayed after that. But the big head got in the way. You'll never have to worry about that now, will you? Jasper is chipped. I did not chip him. I would not have chipped Jasper. I would not chip my animals, but that's just me. But he is chipped. It's somewhere back here, communicating directly to the NSA, no doubt, everything I'm saying. Speaking of chipped, I got a update from our intrepid reporter in Austin, aka Joan, that there's something going on with the homeless today near William Cannon. Very unusual activity. And Joan is speculating that there is some chipping going on in Austin with the homeless. Now, many of you have seen the video of the guy getting a haircut and talking about how he was chipped. By the way, I got a beard trim at that place that he got a haircut. Actually, not that place. There's two of them. There was one in South Austin that I got a beard trim. Very cool old school barbershop, which I love. Anyway, he was talking about how he got chipped, and by getting chipped, he would get all kinds of goodies. He'd get fed, he'd get, all these bennies. And then the guy put the video out, and then, of course, he got a visit from one of the intel agencies. How about that? So it seems like there was something going on today in a kind of a major open air operation with the homeless in Austin, and quite possibly getting chipped. So just putting that on your radar. And I don't think it's that far out of the realm of possibility that this is happening in Austin and other cities across the country. They've already been experimenting and chipping prisoners, inmates in prisons and mental institutions, who are always on the front line of any kind of human experimentation. We've seen this again and again. So I'm sure that that's already taking place. And they perfect the tech, perfect the tech, perfect the tech. There's a really interesting video out there of Joe Biden. And this is when Joe Biden is cross-examining Chief Justice Roberts. And he starts talking about if Chief Justice Roberts would be comfortable ruling on the implementation of subdermal implantable chips. I mean, he's really grilling Roberts on this point. And one of the reasons why was because his son, not Hunter, but his other son, Beau Biden, at that time, was working for Verichip. He was a lobbyist for Verichip. Of course, Verichip is one of the leaders in implantable subdermal chip technology. And we all know that that's the ultimate end game. And there are people who suggest that we already have what amounts to be chip technology swimming around inside of us, vis-a-vis nano arrays and things of that nature, that we're already chipped up. And, that's quite possible, quite possible. But then there's the actual overt versus the covert chipping of the populace, which I think will ultimately come into play. And I think that that's where the basic universal income will also come into play as well. That the gateway to your monthly stipend of $1,200 a month or $1,500 a month or whatever they're gonna give you is also going to be linked to taking the chip. You get the chip, you sign up, and then you're able to get this, these zeros and ones deposited in your account on a monthly basis. Now, if you're a bad boy or a bad girl and you buck the system, well, then you're cut off. You don't get the zeros and ones anymore. And then who knows what they're able to do remotely with this wonderful little chip living inside of you. But that's the end game. And I know it sounds quite paranoid, but from an efficiency standpoint, I mean, let's just roll that out. Just look how efficient that would be if everybody just had their little chip. You'd get to have a major database, which are already working on with Real ID. And there are some states that are not compliant with Real ID. If you don't know what Real ID is a license that everybody has, or it's a ID card that everybody has, and it connects every single state up to a national database. And not just a national database, but ultimately it will be hooked up to a global database, so that when they pull your license at TSA or any other place, which they're able to do, obviously, they're going to be able to pull up your profile. And your profile isn't just who you are, where you live, but I'm sure there's already a Chinese credit score or Chinese rating that's associated with your Real ID. And there's going to be a court case in the future. I don't know any court case by docket number, but you can just tell that this is going to be coming up in either a local court or a state court, primarily for people to access their real ID records and to understand what somebody on the other side of that transaction is seeing, right? That's going to happen. Not every state is compliant with real ID, but apparently they have to be by 2021. Texas is compliant with real ID, and I am now driving around with a real ID compliant license. Isn't that fun? I had a California license for quite a while because California is not compliant with real ID, and I get pulled over, and here's my California license, and eventually I got hit with a stupid ticket. Said you need to get a Texas license, so I complied. Yes, but it was the lesser of two evils in this instance. Speaking of evils, guess who the person of the year is? Before that, let me check in with the chat room. Let's see how everybody's doing. We got some mornings there. There's Christine, there's Michael, likely on the UBI and the chip, universal, yes, universal income. There's Beth. Hey, Beth, nice to see you. There's Natasha and Ani and my man Steve, or my cat's dad is his uncle, so she has an uncle for her father. Yes, cats have incredibly incestuous relationships. I'm sure that they're all related at some level. So yeah, good morning, everybody. It's good to see you again. I apologize for being late, but I'm going to blame it on the very powerful melatonin that I'm taking. It's great. It's great. I just take one of these melatonins, and I am off to the land of Nod for 8 hours, and so I've got to factor in my 8 hours. So let's talk about the person of the year. I'm sure you guys are all over this, no doubt. Let me just grab the old image here so I can share it with you. I think Jasper should be the person of the year. That's my 2 cents. But, how come he's not person of the year? Yeah, there she is. Greta Thunberg. The power of youth. And of course, there was no carbon imprint that went into the manufacturing or anything she's wearing at all. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. It was all hand stitched by immigrants who were brought in via rowboats to her native Sweden. Interesting photo, obviously, and with a lot of metaphoric and symbolic import. There she is. She's on the edge of the planet, right? She's on the edge of the planet, wherever that is. It's at the edge of the planet. And we have the power, the awesome power of the ocean behind her. The ocean, of course, being the generator of the collective unconscious, right? The ocean of our myths. And while it's not Barack Obama-like in his emergence from the ocean circa 2017, it is reminiscent of that picture that she is in some way. Of course, has been an essential symbol that there's a new wave crashing upon the shores of our consciousness. It's also the carrier of Greta Thunberg. sound is nada. Sorry. Whoops. Must have been a Jasper moment. My bad. Let's see. Let's get into the sound. God, I gotta deal with this sound thing, man. Ugh, 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 ugh. How do you feel about Greta as person of the year? Let me just check my levels here. Give me 1 second. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, it looks like I got a level now. So I just have to be conscious and aware of my hand placement. How do you feel about Greta being person of the year? Is she deserving of being person of the year? And if not Greta, then who? Who should be person of the year? Do we even need a person of the year? I mean, is it just kind of an outdated and outworn award, accolade? You know, she's going to win the Nobel Prize too. She's going to win the Nobel Peace Prize. That's baked in. That's going to happen. So Greta Thunberg is being courted all these awards and these accolades because they're not done with her yet. They're still busy pushing and pimping their climate change scam. But I clearly don't think she's, well, here, let me say this. In as much as 9/11 was the alarm clock for people to wake up, Greta Thunberg is playing a similar role in that people are now becoming more and more aware of the blatant hypocrisy that is associated with people like Greta Thunberg, her parents, the system, the climate change mafia. And so to that extent, I think she could be right up there for person of the year, along with Adam Schiff. I think Adam Schiff might also warrant being person of the year, not for any direct contribution that he's made to humanity. On the contrary, he's actually showing us just how deceitful, dark, manipulative, and almost downright evil the system has become, right? That he has become this personification of the system. You gonna get down now? What's your story, Morning Glory? You gonna get down? Oh, it's Jasper Catbutt time. Okay, so you gotta just, be cool because you're right by my sound now. We know what happens when you get close to my sound. Yeah, that's right. Shit happens. Then people text me that they can't hear the sound. Be cool, brother. So why is an Adam Schiff person? I mean, I'm trying to flip this so that we can see kind of the other side of these kinds of awards or these kinds of accolades, or the other side of what's happening as we get force fed any number of agendas. Now, this is actually occurring in a pretty powerful way with Trump and the impeachment. Now, I was on a website last night scouring for some good news, some good details as to kind of what's going on out there. And there was this guy who said that he is a staffer in Washington D.C. and it was just a message on a message board. And he said that there is real panic now with the Democratic Party, and it has to do with the reps, the House of Representatives inside the Democratic Party, who are desperate. Apparently, there's about 50 of them now who desperately want to unplug from this impeachment process. And Nancy Pelosi has been parading around and trying to coerce them, entice them, and bully them to continue on this just absolutely reckless path towards impeachment. So if that's true, then this impeachment process is kind of in the same vector as Greta Thunberg being person of the year. We're in this interesting cycle now, whereas these agendas and these paradigms get aggressively pushed and promoted, the reverse is starting to happen. So in as much as we live in the upside down, and we live in an inverted universe where illusions are considered truth, ugliness is considered beauty, sin is considered a virtue. You know the score. I mean, this is what's been created now. In a universe that's been inverted, when these paradigms or these programs or these agendas get rolled out, then the inverse also takes place. So this is the other side of it. This would be what I would call the physics of inversion. So the people that are doing this now are being shown and are being illuminated clearly, clearly as to who they are and what's behind the curtain. So I would tend to think that this is actually a very positive thing. It's very, very positive. And Trump is only growing here now. He's only growing from strength to strength on this thing. Have you guys seen his rally? Did you check his rally? I'm not going to play any of the sound to his rally, but let me play you an image. This is from Pennsylvania. He's gotten so good at these things. There he is. He's gotten so good. And this is his 11th house right here behind him. Remember now, Trump has Venus, Mercury, and Saturn, all the sign of Cancer. Look, oh yeah, all the sign of Cancer in his 11th house. And his ability to continue to do these rallies. I mean, really what Trump is doing right now is he's campaigning. He is campaigning. He's been on the campaign trail with these rallies for the past year. This is exactly what's going on. The campaign trail. And he's using everything that the Democrats, progressives, the left are throwing out against him. And he is just absolutely consuming it like it's dark matter and turning it around and creating this. So, and again, I'm not asking you to believe in Trump. I'm not asking you to sign up and vote for Trump. But what I am going to share with you here is that Donald Trump is an alchemist. This man is an alchemist. If you want to see alchemy in action, you're witnessing it, because he's taking one state, which is this dark state, also known as the quote unquote deep state, and he's using that energy. He's gobbling it all up. And look what he's doing. He's creating this. And without any apology, without any hesitation, and without any fear. No fear, none whatsoever. You know, when Richard Nixon was being impeached, he went into a bunker. He could not deal with it. He was paranoid, and with good reason to be paranoid, because they were after him. When Bill Clinton was being impeached, he didn't go full bunker mode, but he surrounded himself with his Dixie mafia and was doing everything in his power to basically use them as human shields. And of course, he was deeply, deeply compromised during that impeachment process. And he wound up going into places like Kosovo and Bosnia and bombing the shit out of that area. And he continued to do sanctions over Iraq, no-fly zone over Iraq, things like that. He was basically doing the bidding of his globalist masters. But Trump here is doing something completely different. And he's actually showing people what you can do with your life. Like, this guy is totally leaning right into this thing. He's leaning right into it. He's using the process. He's using everything that they're throwing against him to transmutate it into energy. It's what he's doing, to transmutate it into energy. I have never seen anything like this before. from from the start, when all this began to happen with the primaries. And again, Trump is not perfect by any stretch. He's very cagey. He's at times been deeply flawed by his appointments. I think he's leaned way too heavily on Jared Kushner. I think he's completely blown the border situation, unless, of course, he's got some kind of a long game there. He's got some real, in my estimation, real issues around the environment that need to be really addressed. There's that kind of free market, let's rape, plunder, and pillage the environment part of Trump that I'm not a fan of. But there are other parts of Trump that are kind of mind blowing in this extent and in this regard. So what we're seeing here is something completely different. I've never seen anything like it. But from the inception, through the campaign, through the fits and starts and peaks and valleys and all this shit that's gone on. And it really wasn't until what the Mueller investigation stopped. Like, I think that the Mueller investigation, I think that really spooked Trump, because he was in uncharted territory, and he was probably either threatened or directly or indirectly, and I think he was really spooked. And that's when you had guys like Mattis and Kelly, and they were running the show, and it felt like there was kind of a bit of a military coup during that time. But then those guys are gone now, and once Trump made it through that gauntlet, that was like a pivot for him. And ever since he had that pivot with the Mueller investigation, he's just come out swinging, totally come out swinging. And what we're seeing now is, again, it's a kind of a populist version of alchemy. He's turning this dark matter into energy that he's using, and his numbers now are surging. They're getting, so the Democrats are in a real bind, because they went all in on this, hoping that they could knock him off his block and then derail the election process, get him out, get Pence out, and install whomever, Hillary Clinton and the rightful heir to the throne, or Nancy Pelosi, or whoever that they're trying to install. But they're failing. They're failing miserably. His popularity is going up, 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 and up. And if it continues to go up and to the right, by the time we have an election, if we do have an election in 2020, and it's starting to look more like it's gaining some traction now, then I just think he's a slam dunk. The true node's going to be in Gemini. It's in his sign. It's going to be in the 10th house. How could he not win? Like I said before, if you wanted to get him, you needed to get him now. You needed to get him now, or even before now, because after May, he's going to be very hard to defeat. And they may resort to doing something more drastic, like actually eliminating him, physically eliminating him. But I think that's probably going to be the only option. Now, once the energy, ultimately runs out of this impeachment process, the Democrats are going to be incredibly fragile and vulnerable. Like they're in trouble. They're really in trouble. And this is it. If they try to go after him and impeach him again, it's going to be even worse than it is now. Way worse. So hats off to Trump, the inadvertent alchemist, the fool, the royal fool, the king and the jester, the Sun Uranus conjunction, all rolled into one, witnessing something very unusual and unlike anything I've ever seen with any theoretical global leader. And by the way, his rallies are almost like performance art now. They're almost like performance art. It's incredible. The guy's like borderline stand-up comic. I mean, it's like can't miss theater. And he's emboldened and he is confident now. Very interesting stuff. Very, very interesting. What do you guys, hopefully my volume is still okay. What do you guys think about Trump? Being in the big league of sales, construction and building empire, he's a pro taking backlash, nonstop hate arrows. He came prepared. Just had them at the door trying to force smart meters on me. Sent packing with a flea in his ear. Good for you, Ian. I always think that of that hated as business competition in the television actor scene. The hate doesn't penetrate him. Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm gonna get Greta garbled a hand scarf for Christmas. You do that, Sticky. Trump is the master of turning chaos leveled at him into his favor. Absolutely. Absolutely. Turnaround is an ability of an alchemist. Yes. He was made for this. Outplay, laughing all the way. The political alchemist. Hello, finally found you. Live again. You lift my day. Oh, hi, Nancy. Nice to see you. American political system has been paralyzed by insane Democrats. All distraction. I would agree with that. Using the illusion. The Keystone State. Good call, Jeff. And he was hilarious. He is very funny. Sweet Greta made no remorse, no regrets. Greta, by the way, is now scolding Canada and Norway because of their role in the production of oil and petroleum products, and says that they're abusing her and abusing children by creating oil. I mean, what are these people really pulling for? Are they really want to just turn out the lights? I mean, that's what I've come to the conclusion is they've come to turn out the lights. That's what they want. Turn the lights out. Turn them out. Let's bring back the so-called dark ages. And they're probably even going to be looking at candles and say, well, we can't have candles because they're made out of petroleum products. Well, what about beeswax? Well, then you're exploiting the bees. You can't take their wax. Leave the bees alone. Let the bees be. Well, then how are we going to power the world? We are the light. Don't you understand that? We are the light. We can just illuminate the world from within. We are the shining ones. We don't need any power. We are the power. I mean, she's calling out the governments of Canada and Norway for oil production. And again, look, I think they've got free energy. I think they've had it for years. Tesla had it. The Tartarians are probably tapped into this global grid of telluric energy that they were able to essentially, transpond into light. We've had it for a long time. So I'm not, while I will at the very least be an advocate for people who are working and having jobs inside the petro-economy, which stretches from the extraction of petroleum and petroleum fuel all the way to cars, the creation of auto parts, the stores that sell them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that's part of the economy. And so this is what we have for now. But really, let's be clear and honest that that's what we got. We've got the good stuff. We've had the good stuff for a very long time. Maybe that's what Greta should be focusing on. Wouldn't that be interesting? Would it be interesting if she went off script and decided that she was going to be a free energy advocate? And then you have all these kids and their children crusading for free energy. We want the free energy. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it'd be interesting. Be interesting. But the arrogance, the sheer arrogance of her scolding these countries, telling them that the production, the petroleum production, is abusive. It's child abusive. Ridiculous. And yet she's person of the year. Let her continue to do this. Let these people continue to run their programs and bring people out and put them right in front of us. And as it happens, the inversion effect takes place. And that people wind up going like this. What? What the fuck is going on here? Jeez, maybe I should really rethink my relationship with what's going on with reality, because of where everything's been inverted. And so there's this inversion that's happening with the personification of these these people and their goals and their agendas. Speaking of agendas, I wanted to bring this up because this is really something that's fairly disturbing in some ways. And this is not uncommon. I ran across this story, heard about it yesterday, ran across it today. This is from a website up in Canada called National Post. If you're on the left, you won't like this publication. You'll consider it to be fascistic or hateful or nationalistic, whatever you want to call. So the story here is court sides with bank staffer who says he was denied promotion because he's not gay. The Canadian Human Rights Commission improperly dismissed Aaron Yagadish's discrimination. I mean, let's look at that name, Aaron Yagadish. Doesn't sound like Aaron Yagadish is comes from Northern European Canadian roots. Sounds like he's probably from either India or Pakistan. I know I'm making a very wide, radical, wild assumption here, but I'm going to take that leap, make that leap. So he's already a quote unquote minority, right? A person of color. And yet that is not enough. So it's based on sexual orientation. The Federal Court of Canada has ruled. The Canadian Human Rights Commission was ordered to properly assess a discrimination complaint by a former employee of a major bank who claims his boss told him he had no hope for promotion unless he joined the group of gay and bisexual men. He was told only males who were gay or bisexual were promoted in the office, he claims. The commission had improperly dismissed the employee's discrimination complaint based on sexual orientation, in this case for being straight. The Federal Court of Canada ruled. A new investigation and assessment was ordered. Aaron Yagadish worked as a financial services representative for the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce in Toronto. He was repeatedly turned down for promotions. At a one-on-one meeting with his manager on September 5th in 2015, this is 4 years ago now, Yagadish said he was told that every male manager in the office was gay or bisexual, and unless he joined this group, there was no hope for him, the court heard. Yagadish claims the manager said this is why young male employees with little or no qualifications were promoted. Told him to be smart and learn, and then allegedly asked Yagadish what he thought of him. Oh, gee, after you shared that with me, well, thanks for asking me the question. You are a very sexy man. I wasn't aware of how sexy and powerful you were until I had this conversation with you. His job, according to court records, required him to call 60 to 70 customers each day to sell products, which required him to read 4 to 6 pages of product information and legal disclosures. The bank evaluated performance by measuring 2 metrics: wrap time, meaning the time between calls must be less than 30 seconds, and adherence targets, meaning operators must be on calls 96% or more of the time on their shift. What a soulless fucking job that is. Could you imagine that? I mean, that might turn some people gay. It's like, okay, how do I get out of this call center salt mine. Oh, you mean if I pretend I'm gay, I get out of this job and get promoted? All right, sign me up, man. That's a brutal job. Absolutely brutal. What are they selling them? They're selling them probably bullshit bank products. After several months of continuous calling, he developed severe throat vocal cord pain. Of course, he probably wasn't even into it, but he had to make a living and doing his thing. His family doctor recommended modified duties. He claims he was instead asked by the bank to go on short-term disability. CIBC referred him to another doctor, who in turn referred him to a specialist. The specialist concluded that he suffered from muscle tension dysphonia, and needed regular medical breaks to fully recover, the court heard. Yagadish said CIBC started discriminating against him soon after the diagnosis. His pay, as well as bonuses and incentives, were cut, of course. May as well just cut his vocal cords. He said he was threatened with discipline if he took his medical breaks. He said he was turned down for 17 alternate jobs. Yagadish believed the encounter with his manager about sexual orientation was the primary reason for his discrimination, and explained why. Despite his qualifications, experience, and excellent performance, he was denied workplace accommodation for his disability and not offered any alternative position. Justice Janet M. Fuhrer. Her last name is Fuhrer. Oh my God. You can't make this shit up. The Fuhrer, the Fuhrer ruled in favor of Mr. Yagadish. Oh my God. How do you have Fuhrer? How do you have that last name? Yagadish was fired on May 10th, 2016. He filed a human rights complaint the following April, alleging discrimination by CIBC because of disability and sexual orientation. He alleged that young employees received promotions, awards, and favors because, well, they were sexually exploited. An investigator with the Human Rights Commission was assigned to look into the complaint. CIBC officials were interviewed, not the manager who allegedly made the remarks about only gay and bisexual men being promoted. That manager investigator was told he was on an extended leave of absence. Maybe he had some issues with his throat and his vocal cords, perhaps for different reasons. The investigator declined to proceed further on the complaint of sexual orientation discrimination, but did assess his disability complaint and found that CIBC had adequately accommodated him. Last November, the commission dismissed the complaints. Representing himself, Yagadish appealed to the federal court, so the Fuhrer did not rule in his favor. Seeking a review of the commission's decision, he complained the investigator had selectively ignored evidence to avoid dealing with the sexual orientation complaint. Of course they did. CIBC, however, agreed with the investigator's conclusions. The bank argued it was a thorough probe and that nothing linked the negative treatment Yagadish allegedly experienced to his sexual orientation. CIBC argued he was simply unqualified. Fuhrer, I'm sorry, it makes me laugh. Fuhrer, in a decision released in September, ruled that the commission's investigation decisions were not procedurally fair to Yagadish. Oh, so she's chiming back in. Fuhrer said the lack of thoroughness in reviewing the grounds of the complaint meant the decision must be set aside. She ordered the commission to try again with a different investigator. Hannah Lang Chenier, a spokeswoman for the commission, said she could not discuss the case or reveal its status. The law prevents us from commenting on any complaint in our system, she said. Yagadish also clashed with CIBC over how much the bank should reimburse him for the court of successful court challenge and returned to court last month. This Yagadish guy is a bulldog. Yagadish had represented himself and spent $438.10 in expenses. That's Canadian too. While CIBC said it had spent significantly more than $5,000 to defend the case. Apparently, then understanding he could claim for his time as well as expenses, he asked for $6,646.57, while CIBC said he should only get $500. What a bunch of cheap bastards. Self-represented litigants are eligible for a moderate allowance above the cost of their direct disbursements to reflect the time and effort they devoted to preparing and presenting their case. FIRA ruled on November 19th. She ordered CIBC to pay him half of what he asked for, $3,332.30. Crystal Yongaward, why is this all women? You notice that it's all women here. We have the female judge, we have the female spokesperson, we have a senior consultant. They're all women. Interesting. Just a notice. I'm not inferring anything dark conspiratorial here. Crystal Youngward, senior consultant, public affairs of CIBC, said, while we are unable to comment, as the matter is still before the commission, no form of harassment or discrimination is acceptable at our bank. Jagadish could not be reached for comment. Well, let's see. If you're Canadian and you bank at CIBC, maybe you should wear T-shirts that say, I support Aaron, as you go in and bank. Or maybe you should go find another bank. Maybe that would be a very interesting exercise in your ability to choose and support institutions that support humans fairly. How about that? Put that in your pipe and smoke it, Canadians. All right, let me get back here and talk with you people for a little bit before I sign off. Oh, I have one more story today. It's a funny one. Before I do that, well, I'll save it for tomorrow. That was kind of funny in an odd way. Anytime you have somebody named Führer as a judge, the unintentional humor scale really gets up to 8, 9, and 10. I'm sure she's a very nice person. The Führer. My God. All right, let me check in with you guys. Let's see what's happening. Let's see, get the hell out of banking, period. Yeah, there you go. Only route to promotion through the back door. Yikes. Let's see. What does Maury say? Maury has a good idea. It's time to bring in free energy. I agree. No fault or blame. I see it. We all make our choices, our decision, and the fallout. New Mexico tax industry revenue would collapse without oil gas industry. Yep, I'd agree with that. Greta should go over to Saudi Arabia. Our good and staunch allies. We were told by MSN. Ooh, that is a good idea. Stage names, sure, yeah, right. The desire to work in banking is proof enough that there's something wrong with them. Oh boy. Yeah. So it's what we've seen is, and we've seen this for a long time, as various groups assemble and they coalesce and join together to create bands of power. So I don't think the CIBC is the only institution that has this constellation of power associated with it. All right, that's it for Jasper and I. Go over to robertphoenix.com. I've got some astrological specials, holiday specials for people if you're interested in readings, or you get your 365 days of wisdom, which is a 75-page report for the astrology for you for the upcoming year. You can also get natal reports. You can give those as gifts as well. So there's a lot happening over on my website. And that's about it. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to step on what's possible. And watch what the orange man is doing in terms of the alchemical process. It's very interesting and a lot to learn. Have yourself a great day. I'll be back tomorrow. Take care for now. Bye for now.